Welcome into Broncos Weekend. I'm Matt Boyer. Rod Smith, Alexis Perry, and the Gardiner brothers will be along momentarily. But as always, in studio, we start with the Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater. Steve?
What's up, Boyer?
How we feeling?
I'm feeling good. We're making a few moves in free agency. I'm excited to see what these guys can do. George Paton is doing his thing.
We heard from George Paton finally this week after the first wave of free agency here. Shelby Harris on the extension coming back. But then also we heard from Ronald, Darby, and Mike Boone. We'll get to them in just a second. First on Harris, though.
When I was with the Vikings and we watched tape of the Broncos and, number 96 stuck out, Shelby Harris. He's physical in the run game. He sets the tone up front. He's strong, he's heavy-handed, he's a disruptive pass rusher, and as everyone knows, he gets his hands on a lot of balls. And I was just told, actually, before I came here, he's one of 5 defensive linemen currently in the league with 15 sacks and over 20 pass deflections. So you feel Shelby.
George Paton was very, very complimentary about Shelby Harris in his press conference. Really had a lot of nice things to say about him, especially dating back to his time in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, we knew that Shelby, was going to get some interest if we would have hit the market, and I'm glad that he didn't. He's back with us. We know the value that Shelby Harris brings to this team. He's a tough run stopper. He's going to be relentless in his pursuit of the quarterback, and he brings good energy to that defense. He's made a lot of plays. George Paton mentioned it. He's one of the few guys who has as many batted balls and sacks. I want to say top 2 or 3 in the league here in the last several years. So Shelby Harris is a quality football player who is on the verge of being a superstar. And I'm hoping that he can get over that level and make a Pro Bowl or something.
Speaking of Pro Bowls, Ronald Darby said one of his goals while he's here, make a Pro Bowl, make it all pro. Hasn't done that yet, but feels like Denver could be that place for him. What did you get the sense for what Darby can bring to this defense when you heard him talk this week at the press conference?
Yeah, well, from listening to him talk, one, he has a lot of confidence, and I think that's a very important trait for cornerbacks because you're going to be put to the test by some of the most athletic, speediest, most talented players on the field in the wide receiver position. So you got to be able to bounce back from adversity, be able to have a memory that goes away quickly, and I think he'll be able to fit that mold. And the good thing about him is he's a great man-to-man player, but he can also play zone coverage. And, it'll be a good fit for Vic Fangio's system that plays, I would say, a majority zone defense. But when we got to play man-to-man, you need somebody reliable like Ronald Darby.
He said he's got to turn some of those
batted balls
into interceptions. How do you do that, Steve? Now, how does that happen? How can you, is that something that you just got to work on? I mean, as a former defensive back, how can he work on that? Or is that something that's just a mental thing that he needs to get over?
Well, I think for any player, you just got to work on, get on the jugs machine like the receivers do. When Jerry Jeudy drops some balls, what do they do? More jugs. For defensive backs, spend times on the jug machine if you're dropping them. Now, if it's a matter of him just not being in position, that's something totally different. But if it's him, actually getting his hands on the ball, dropping them, I dropped a few in my day. if that's the issue, hit the jugs machine and, turn those batted balls into interceptions and touchdowns.
Guy who knows a lot about catching passes is Mike Boone, the guy that George Paton brought in to replace Phillip Lindsay. I know we'll get to that in a second. But first, I thought it was interesting. George Paton said Mike Boone was a self-made man, a guy who came in undrafted but really made a career for himself on special teams. What do you think he's going to bring? What kind of dimension can he add to the Broncos running game?
One, he was a receiver, and I think that will be a big role for him is catching the ball out of the backfield. I know some people were saying that Phillip Lindsay didn't do a great job of that, but I don't think he got a ton of opportunities to catch balls out of the backfield. But I think that's what Mike Boone will bring to this team, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and contribute significantly on special teams. But, if he's the number 2 back, if he is able to win the number 2 running back position, I don't know how many special teams he's going to be playing because more than likely he's going to be contributing as a running back as well.
A lot of the attention is going to be focused on the fact that Broncos and Phillip Lindsay parted ways this week.
Yes.
Do you think that Mike Boone has something to prove? I feel like if you come in and try and replace Phillip Lindsay or have that in the back of your mind, you're already set up to fail. You need to just kind of go in there and be your own guy. But if you're a Broncos fan, how do you view this? Can you put a positive spin on the fact that Mike Boone might be able to do some of the same things that Philip Lindsay did and some things that he didn't do.
Shout out to Phil. We worked together. We trained together. Our rookie coming in, to the NFL together. But, like I said, I'm here to be me. Shout out to Phil. Major respect, great athlete. But I'm just here to be me and do what I can. I
thought he answered that question really well, and not putting the pressure on himself by saying, "Hey, Philip Lindsay is a friend of mine. Much respect to him, but I'm here. I'm Mike Boone, and I'm going to play Mike Boone's game." And, I like that attitude, that mentality that he's not putting unnecessary pressure on himself. He's going to come out here and do what he's done in the past and get focused in on what he can do as a player. And it may be something totally different from what Philip Lindsay did, and it can be a really good thing. So I liked his answer.
3 down, Steve. We're 3 players deep into free agency. What's left? What are you looking for as we seems like the first wave's over. What are you looking forward to for the next wave? We've mentioned quarterback is still out there. George Paton was asked about it. Safety still out there. I thought it was interesting that George Paton didn't completely close the door on Kareem Jackson potentially coming back.
Yeah.
What do you think is out there for the Broncos here as we hit wave 2?
Quarterback, obviously, because, hey, you heard it right from the horse's mouth. Safety with us not signing Kareem Jackson back. Will Parks not on the right.
Another guy that we didn't mention.
Another guy who's not in the fold. So, and we haven't really addressed the inside linebacker position. I know a lot of people have been mentioning Justin Stranad, and I'm hoping that he can step in and play and play at a high level. But that remains to be seen. So if they target a linebacker, hey, that means that, hey, they are still a little bit concerned about that position, but I haven't heard much about that so far.
We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back on Broncos Weekend, Rod Smith, Steve, he's joining the A-Team.
Your guy. Yes, absolutely.
Rod Smith joining Atwater's A-Team to talk about Von Miller's return, plus Alexis Perry is back with Voice of the Fan. And in honor of St. Patrick's Day, we are going Irish dancing with the Gardiner brothers. That's next. I want to be here forever. That's what Von Miller posted to his Instagram account following the Broncos picking up his option for 2021. So who better this week to join the A-Team than Rod Smith, a guy who spent his entire career in Denver. This week, Steve is chatting with Rod about Denver's free agency moves and about adding competition all along the roster.
I want to jump into some of the stuff that's been going on here lately with the Broncos. Let's start off with the news that the Broncos have decided to exercise Von Miller's option 2021. How did you react when you heard that news, and what do you think about it?
You know what? The thing is this time of year, all of us try to play GM. What would I do? This, and that. The thing about Von is I saw it and I felt that Von worked extremely hard last year to get himself ready to play. And I heard things come out of his mouth for the first time that I hadn't heard in a long time, which was about leadership, not just understanding your play, but you got to understand that people are going to follow you regardless because you are that guy. You're the face of the franchise at this point in time, And so to bring him back, Super Bowl MVP, of course, Super Bowl champion, and of that team who won the Super Bowl, he's one of the only guys that's left. You know what I'm saying? It's a few more guys on there, but that had the significance of that team, no one was bigger than Von. And so to bring him back, the energy that Von brings, Von brings a certain energy. And one of the things I think we've lost over the last few years is leadership. And him not being there last year, of course, Chubb has a Pro Bowl year, but Chubb doesn't have the pedigree, not that he can't have the talent, but the pedigree of Von. Von been here, been his NFL home his whole career. And to see him continue that, I was definitely excited about that. And I think it was way bigger of an internal move. And what I mean internal is the guys who already know of Von, they can, get a sigh of relief that they're getting their captain, their team leader back.
Yeah. Now also, hey, Broncos signed Shelby Harris, 3 years, $27 million deal. Also, cornerback Ronald Darby coming over from the Washington football team. What are your thoughts on those two signings, re-signings with Shelby for the upcoming year?
With Darby, I did a little research on Darby because, of course, last year with COVID and all the stuff, you don't get this full slate of seeing all the games and all the guys and all that stuff. So But definitely looked up, quality pickup. I know you get like $10 million a year. I was like, man, what do you mean? Everybody gets $10 million. Like you in the league, you got a shirt on, you're getting $10 million. So the thing is I think one of the things, I'm just saying this about him, but I definitely want to talk about Shelby, because that to me was a great addition to the team as a whole. And but for Darby, I think some of these guys, they get the money and they kind of relax. And not saying that's him, because I don't know him like that, but I hope he has a mentality like, hey, this is only scratching the surface of what y'all got. Y'all got a deal, and I'm gonna show you got a deal. And I think sometimes when you get the money, you want to come in hungrier. So I want that for him and everybody else. I know they tendered some guys, but Shelby Harris to me was always in the backfield. He was always tipping passes. He was always doing something, and he had that energy that I really like. I base who I want to play with, who I enjoy watching, off of the energy they bring to the table. And this guy brought energy every single week. I remember when he missed a stretch because of COVID, you could see the defensive line, not that they didn't do their job, but it was something missing. And when he came back, things started to roll again, man. And I'm just happy for him.
Now, we haven't added a quarterback through free agency yet. A lot of the people who I thought, we get an opportunity for, they either re-sign with the same team or re-sign with different teams. How important do you think it is that we add someone, even though there are fewer options today than there were even yesterday?
To me, I haven't seen us, and I just got to be honest, is go after those backup quarterbacks. Because I think when you label a guy a backup quarterback, you look for him to fit a certain role. I personally don't like that. I'm looking for starting quarterback, guys who want to start in the league, guys who want to be the trigger guy. At the end of the day, I look at a guy like Tannehill. Tannehill was a backup, and Tannehill played. He earned the right. He played. He got starter money 2 years later, 3 years later, right? Yeah. So, we got to find a guy who's hungry like that. Saying, no, I'm his backup because they only let 11 on the field. But I'm making this guy either better or I'm going to push him out of the way. And I think we need that right now. You can't say, well, we're going to put everything on Drew because here's one avenue. What if he gets hurt?
Yeah.
Happened last year.
Yeah.
And so do you want your quality of play to fall off that much? And it shouldn't, because those guys, their goal is to be starters as well. But talent is talent. Ballers is ballers. They're going to step up and make plays if they're ballers. And then you got to change your offense, and you got to change the scheme up. Can you change it to get better? Because you can go in a different direction, because you got a guy who's been waiting. He's pushing to be a starter. He's right there. And that makes that starting quarterback, whoever that is, in our case is Drew right now, he's got to play lights out. He can't make these little mistakes that we allow him to make because you're afraid to play the guy behind him. That's just my take, man. I like to say it's a different approach, but I believe in putting the best 53 guys on the roster. Or nowadays they got so many guys, but you can put a guy back there that wants to be starters. I need 22 starters on offense, 22 starters on the night 11, and go from there.
All right, Rod. Thanks so much, man. Great breakdown.
No problem.
And hey, we'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Go Broncos. Appreciate you.
Special thanks to Rod Smith for joining the A-Team this week. When we come back on Broncos Weekend, Alexis Perry is taking us to Galway, Ireland. We're still feeling the luck of the Irish after St. Patrick's Day, so who better to chat with than two world champion Irish dancers that also happen to be massive Broncos fans? That's next. Irish dancing and the Denver Broncos, two things not associated with each other most often, but for the Gardiner brothers, both are a way of life. Alexis Perry is back this week in Voice of the Fan, profiling Matthew and Michael Gardiner as they explain why they were Denver Broncos fans long before they became world champion Irish dancers.
Thanks so much, Matt. In honor of St. Patrick's Day earlier this week, Broncos Country, we want to introduce you to two of your diehard members who you may actually recognize from their viral Irish dancing videos on Instagram and TikTok. Mike and Matt Gardiner joining us all the way from Galway, Ireland. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today.
What's up, Mike and Matt?
Thanks for having us, and happy belated St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, happy belated St. Patrick's Day to you. Well, not only are you guys 5-time world champion Irish dancers and members of the iconic Riverdance show, but you are also lifelong Broncos fans. So tell us how you fell in love with the Denver Broncos. Did you guys choose Denver as your team, or were you born into your Broncos fandom?
Well, we were both born, as well as our older sister, in Denver.
and 2 Irish parents.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we grew up kind of just watching all the Denver sports teams, and I think we just took to the Broncos more than any of the others. We just had a natural kind of attention to them, and the way I remember when I really fell in love with them was we were actually at the rodeo, and we weren't even watching the game, so it wasn't even actually at a game. And the announcer announced that it was the game against the Patriots, and Champ Bailey intercepted Tom Brady and ran it back all the way.
Yeah.
And that was such an important memory for me as a child. Like, I didn't even get to see it live or anything, but that's why I have the jersey on right now.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Now, of all the great moments in Denver Broncos franchise history, what do you consider to be your favorite ones? You know, 1 or 2.
One that really sticks out to me and Matthew, when we moved to Ireland in 2006, it started to become quite hard to watch the Broncos because obviously as young kids, we couldn't be staying up till 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, you know, here, especially with school the next day.
Right.
But there was that magical Tebow year. We just decided, Matthew and I, we figured out our mom's laptop password and we stole the laptop at midnight and we were up in our room and we were watching that Tebow game against the Steelers, and it went to overtime. And one of the craziest things, it was incredible, and we'll never forget it, was on that first pass in overtime, and I'm sure everyone remembers that, our stream cut out. So it cut out before DT caught it. So the two of us were like screaming in our bedroom at 3 a.m.
Yeah, you honestly, you couldn't script it.
You couldn't script it. And we were like, what's going on? What's going to happen here? And the stream came back with Tebow pounding the ground. So immediately we didn't really know what was going on. We were like,
it was either really good or really bad.
Was he doing his Tebowing or was he mad at him? And then obviously it turned out like it was a good memory. So that's one that really sticks out. But obviously you got to remember the Super Bowls as well.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, man. What a time for the internet and everything to go out, right?
Yeah. Like you could not script it.
Yes.
Well, speaking of the internet, you told me via DM that your 2 greatest loves are Irish dancing and the Denver Broncos. So tell us how you guys combine the 2 to go viral on social media.
Well, you know, one of our 2 favorite things are Irish dancing and the Broncos, and we just love to support the Broncos in any way we can. So Matthew and I like to put up some dancing videos to showcase the Irish culture, but obviously when it comes to game season, and, game day, we like to put on the Broncos gear and get out and showcase the Irish dancing in our Broncos gear. So one of the most recent ones we did, actually, we danced to Tiesto's The Business. And, of course, everyone knows Tiesto is a huge Broncos fan as well. And he actually reshared it, which was so insane. It was so cool that he got to see it. But maybe if Tiesto's playing the Super Bowl one year,
we can all go up in Broncos gear.
He'll know who to call.
Now, are there any other professional teams over in Ireland that have the orange and blue colors?
Not in Ireland.
No, not in Ireland.
It's definitely unique.
Okay, yes, you guys stand out over there, huh?
Exactly.
Absolutely. We're proud.
Well, St. Patrick's Day also marks the first day of the new league year, as well as the start of free agency. The Broncos, they've signed corner Ronald, Darby, running back Mike Boone, and inked Shelby Harris to a 3-year deal as well. So what are your initial impressions of George Paton's first few moves as GM?
Yeah, it's been very interesting anyway.
Yeah. It's been great. I'm excited to hear that Shelby Harris is re-signing. He's so important. That run stopper, and he's got the best hands in the league. You had to
right.
Yeah, I like Darby as well. I've actually kind of been a fan of Darby for a while, so that'll be exciting as well.
Good to get corners, and maybe we have to get another corner in the draft or something. But it's an exciting time, especially with the new GM, and we'll see what direction we're going to go from here.
Last but certainly not least, Mike, Matt, do you guys have any questions for the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater?
Yeah. Well, actually, we wanted to know, as competitors ourselves, we're always interested to find out what other, an elite athlete like yourself has to say on something like this. When you're competing for championships and world titles, does your mindset change once you've reached that world title and you become the chased when somebody is chasing you rather than you chasing them? Or does your mindset remain the same? It's back to ground zero. You're working for that world title again.
Well, I think, a lot of different people handle that differently. Back when we won the back-to-back Super Bowls, I would say a majority of the guys on our team still had the same attitude of we're going to go out here and we're going to be hungry. We're not going to play passive. And our coaches had that mentality as well. You know, we're going to run it up. If we're up by 10, we want to be up by 20, by 30. And defensively, you know, we wanted to be just constantly bringing pressure on the offense. So, you know, I think we for the most part had the mindset of, we're not satisfied. You know, we want more. And also realizing that it's happened so few times. And when you have an opportunity to be in a special situation like that, you got to take advantage of it, because those times only come around every blue moon. So, and we fully maximize it. So yeah, I'm honored to have played on that team.
Absolutely. Thanks very much.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Matt, Mike, thank you guys so much for hopping on with us today during this incredibly busy week for you. And thanks so much for repping the orange and blue out there in Ireland.
Good.
Always.
Absolutely, always.
Thank you for having us.
Be sure to follow them at Gardiner Brothers on social media for some awesome Irish dance content. Matt, back to you.
Thank you, Alexis, and a belated happy St. Patrick's Day to Michael and Matthew across the pond. Hopefully we will see them in Denver sometime soon. That'll do it for us today on Broncos Weekend. I'm Matt Boyer. So long, Broncos country. We will see you next week.